Welcome. We're here with Rich Neel and Greg Cohen. Welcome, fellas.
Good to see you.
Happy to be here.
Doing great. Rich, you are the controller for JWB, but I don't like to introduce people. I like to have people introduce themselves. You want to tell us a little bit about what you're up to these days?
Sure. I get Rich Neel. I'm the controller here at JWB Real Estate Companies.
Yeah.
I've been here for 6 years.
Uh-huh.
13. Coming up on 7.
Time flies when you're having fun,
Yeah,
huh, buddy?
indeed. I'm actually an independent contractor. I have my own firm that does accounting services and outsource CFO controller type services for small businesses. Believe it or not, JWB used to be a small business 6 years ago.
Yeah.
So I'm here on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, but always available. They're my largest client, and probably for sure my most dynamic.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And you were telling me earlier that were they your first client, or
Yes.
they had a hand in you kind of going into
Yeah,
entrepreneurship?
I had been entertaining the idea, and as an accountant, I'm conservative by nature, and a mutual accounting friend did the taxes for JWB, and he had been coercing me to try and go out on my own for a while, and I was like, I don't know, and then I finally got to a point in my career where I was like, all right, I'm ready to have a little more flexibility, let's try it, and he introduced me to Adam Riegel, the CFO, and he's kind of notorious for doing things unconventionally, and they were looking to hire an accounting manager, and told me what they needed done and what he wanted done. And I was like, they were hiring a full-time person within a certain budget, obviously. And so I started thinking, I was like, I can probably do what you want done for that budget 3 days a week. And Regal was like, all right, let's give it a shot. And that was 6 years ago, and here we are. Here we are now with the huge accounting staff, and God knows how many companies that we roll up, and the growth.
Truthfully though, were you worried about like jumping in on a company when we were a lot smaller back in the day, 6 years ago, 7 years ago?
Oh,
was that like going through your mind?
Well, not only that, in full transparency, when I saw your guys' balance sheet, that's the first, before I learned. Again, I came from a real estate company that maybe used leverage and debt to a little extent, and that's how you guys
loved that.
You loved that. Which, as an accountant back then, I was like, wow. So it was.
Your mind must have been blown the first time you looked at how we use debt to acquire and whatnot.
Absolutely.
And now you're a client.
And now I'm a client.
Now you're doing the same damn thing.
Now I'm doing the same thing. So yeah, it was a big jump. But it's been very mutually beneficial as they've grown. Like I say, I'm the controller, but since I've been here, I learned how to write code for Visual Basic for Excel because they wanted to figure out a way to speed things up. And then they do everything on Google Sheets, which I had never experienced that technology before, which, as this geeky accountant talk, but I came in being a huge Excel fan, to where I hated Google Sheets, to a year later, now I'm writing code behind the scenes to connect emails and Zapier and now that. So it's been a crazy development. And Adam Riegel didn't know what a debit and a credit was before, when I got here. And now he can talk debits and credits with the best of them.
Now he's less dumb in accounting, basically, right?
That's a good quality for a CFO.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I love the storyline of JWB as a business incubator, right? Like this is multiple times now it comes up of them being like the seed client to people that have been able to go off on their own and continue. So tell me a little bit about your career before you got to that point. How did you get formed as an accountant?
I was the prototypical young professional accountant. I took accounting in high school and was good at it, and a couple of my brothers were accountants, and I knew they did pretty well. So I was like, yeah, why not? So I started with Ernst & Young in Manhattan, actually. Born and raised in Florida. Got shipped off to college up in New York. I kind of knew I always wanted to be in business, and the stereotype back then, was New York City's the epicenter, right? So I was like, well, let me see if I can get a good job and work in Manhattan. So I did. Started actually even before I graduated in '95 because I got hired in tax, and they wanted me to work part-time during school during tax season. So that's what I did. I go to class in the morning, hop on the train, go into the city, and work my butt off in the afternoon and evenings. Stayed there to get my CPA. Got my CPA, and as soon as I got my CPA, I knew I wanted to get the heck out of there. Just because it's
different than Jacksonville.
Oh man, it's a grind. The stories I could tell you is like, because I surf and have to ride the train down to Jersey Shore with your board, and you have to pay to get on the beach. I thought they were messing with me, but
compared to now, you walk outside your door, you're pretty much there.
Exactly.
4mm wetsuit.
Exactly. Exactly. So got out of there. I'm from the Gulf Coast in Bradenton, but I didn't want to go back to Bradenton. A, I wanted to go East Coast for waves, and two, wanted to be close enough to my parents, but far enough away. And I had a brother here, a brother and a sister here. My sister worked for UNF, and my brother worked for Barnett Bank. It was Barnett back in the day. Yeah. So came down here and found a job with Arthur Andersen. Made my way to manager there. Really liked it. Met my wife there. Was really kind of an interesting time. A lot of our friends literally met their wives working at Arthur Andersen.
Interesting.
Yeah, very strange. But then had an opportunity after four years there in 2001 to go work for Regency Centers. And Regency Centers is the tagline. I still remember it. Regency is the nation's leading owner, operator, developer of grocery-anchored shopping centers. So if you go to
5 times fast.
Yeah. So if you go to Publix in Jacksonville, it's probably owned by Regency Centers.
Got it.
Started there in their tax department and got an opportunity after a couple of years in senior management, senior tax manager there. A guy that I would run with, I'd see him at the gym at lunch and stuff. He was looking for a controller for the real estate accounting group, and I was like, dude, I don't even really know, what does a controller do? I was like, I know.
It's one of those titles that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what the hell that does.
Yeah.
I think what you just did with controller goes very, very well.
The controller.
And so I was there. For 13 years. I think the first 4 or 5 years in tax, and then I got the opportunity to be the controller of real estate accounting. And as they grew, that role grew. So I was basically in control. There you go. In control of the property accounting. They were split up regionally, which was really cool opportunity. So we were kind of the bridge between the leasing teams, the property management teams, and we were, kind of had the rules that they had to play by and how the stuff they did impacted their numbers and stuff like that. But it was a really, really great company to work for, family atmosphere. The Steins still run it. Got my wife from Andersen hired there. Yeah. That was another really, really strange scenario. My boss, my wife is still at Regency, and the woman who hired me is still her boss, said that she was looking for somebody in their development accounting group. And she's like, do you know anybody? And she listed out all the traits and all the specifics. And I was like, you kind of just describe my wife, exactly what she does. Yeah. And she was like, oh, no. Or no, we were engaged. We were engaged. And she's like, no, that'd be too weird. Well, let me see your resume. I was like, well, let me interview her. And then she was like, okay, I love her. I want to hire her. How do we make this work?
I told you, right?
Yeah. So I did, believe it or not, I got a referral. I got a referral bonus for it.
Nice.
Man, that's a big one.
Had to go through HR that there wasn't any collusion.
How come you haven't been able to bring Shannon over to
or
JWB,
anything like that? Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But no, so Regency was really good for me. And it did, like I said, with Andersen went under with the whole Enron scandal like a year after I left.
Yeah.
And I wish I had a story of how I saw it coming and strategically got out of it, but it was just dumb luck.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Um,
I want to go back to a little bit before that, right? Because this is a point of contention I've had with Greg. I moved here to surf also, right? Like I moved here
Okay.
from Miami. Again, also from a big city that has astronomical cost of living to a town that's completely underrated for surfing
Yeah.
with a low cost of living and everything, right? But like you graduating, you know, I know that an undergraduate job with one of the big five in New York, I mean, you were killing it, right? Like that is a huge job to move from Bradenton to New York, and then the decision to move back to Florida,
Yeah.
to Jacksonville specifically. I think it says a lot for the draw that it can that can bring a talent like yourself back from a big city like that can make it through that level and the formation that you had.
Yeah. Well, it's overrated too because I did. You know, I think I started. You know, like I say this was '95, and it was I remember I think 30 grand, 33 grand.
Yeah.
Which back then for a 21-year-old kid is a lot of money.
Yeah.
But then looking at apartments, I'm like, oh man, do I move into the city? No.
50% of my salary.
Yeah, and back then, you know, I maybe had one suit. You know, I had to buy another suit. Then I get my, and then I was the prototypical, you know, by the book. You know, I went to onboarding and they told me, oh, by the way, we got this great 401k plan. Max out your 401k. Okay, so I did that. Got my first paycheck. Mm-hmm. So 401k comes out. New York State income tax comes out.
Oh, man.
The New York City Metropolitan Transportation Authority tax comes out, and I'm like, dude, I can't pay my rent. You know.
Yeah.
But so you know, just the way I was, I had to be smart about it. I lived with the guys, you know, that I went to college with and ran track with.
Yeah.
In New Rochelle, rode the train in every day. I mean, I was that guy in the winter, the trench coat and the scarf, you know, waiting on the freaking platform. The address 787 7th Avenue North, you know, went through, got off at Grand Central, walked through Rockefeller Center, you know, the whole night, and that was the
iconic, man.
Yeah, but that was really the moment when there was literally a moment. I mean, you could freaking Hallmark movie or whatever. It was Christmas time. It's freezing cold. It's snowing. It's 9 o'clock at night. Hauling ass to try and make my train, so I didn't have to wait another hour. And I'm literally cutting through Rockefeller Center, and you know, it's packed. Get out of my way! I gotta make my train. This and that, and I'm just like, what am I doing, man? I'm that guy. I'm sitting here. I'm like, what does it matter? And so I chilled out. I went and watched the ice skaters, you know, Rockefeller Center. Took it all in, and that's when I was like, dude, I'm getting out.
Interesting.
And that, yeah, to your point, Jacksonville, you know, I think maybe it was a lateral, you know, maybe I took a little bit of hit in salary, but no income tax. Found an apartment at the beach, never looked back, you know, so.
And businesses are understanding that now.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got a lot of our financial sector in Jacksonville is really growing. You think about the impact that Deutsche Bank has had on the local economy, and it's all because they're bringing thousands of employees from the Northeast, specifically because of the grind.
Yeah.
You know, the grind that you have up there, and so you get higher quality of living, happier employees, better returns.
For sure. Yeah. And as the world becomes more virtual, you're not location specific to New York, right?
Exactly.
So all right. So you said you got out lucky from Arthur Andersen, but do you ever reflect back and think how different your career would have been? Like, what happened? You know, what your peers that were there did it affect their career trajectory in a certain way?
Yeah. Well, my wife. We were dating at the time, and she had moved to Atlanta and was with Andersen in Atlanta, and it was, I don't want to say contentious, but it was always one of those that, you know, she kind of wanted that bigger city thing too, but when Andersen went under, she needed a job, and kind of took the opportunity, you know, to we'll see if this guy's serious, you know. She found another job in real estate here. It wasn't all that, and then luckily got her at Regency. Yeah. I would probably still be in public accounting, probably. But the timing of it was that it was, you know, when I had the opportunity at Regency, it's kind of one of those career points for all public accountants to, oh man, do I stick on the public accounting train and try and make it all the way to partner, or do I branch off? But everybody else for the most part, ended up at KPMG. KPMG kind of took most of the Anderson people in, and some of them are still there. But one of my, the guy who actually connected me with JWB went to a small firm out in Ponte Vedra Beach, and he was the guy who had actually hired me and talked me into, took me on the tour here with Anderson, with Jacksonville. So he's a Jacksonville native, went to Fletcher, well connected, and he's built that firm now, Pivot CPAs, into this great culture, a beach accounting firm. That's if you ask me, where would I be? I'd hope I wouldn't have ended up at KPMG. No offense, KPMG, but I would have hoped I would have ended up out at the beach with Peter. But like I said, Peter's the guy who at Pivot who did their taxes, and he started approaching me and was like, "You gotta get out of corporate America, man," and had kids that were getting into elementary school. And he's like, you can do just as well. He's like, you got tax background, you got public accounting background, you got corporate accounting background, real estate. He's like, I can find you clients where you do your own thing. And he introduced me to JWB.
Rest is history.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love it. So you've had this big, you come from 2 Big 5 companies, then within Regency, now you've had your own thing. Do you have any actionable tips on how people can communicate better with their CPA or their controller? As a business owner, what do you recommend as best practices of your relationship with your controller and your accountant?
Well, I think for any business to be successful, you have to have a accounting drives everything. I mean, sales, everything, you can be the best salesman, but if you don't have good accounting and finance property or processes and procedures and controls, it's kind of useless. But you also need to I think we've found the perfect balance here at JWB, because they're pushing the limits operationally, trying to be as innovative and as creative as possible, and at the same time those have accounting and tax implications. So it's a balance of, Greg or Alex or somebody says, "Hey, we want to do this. We want to do this deal," and I'm like, okay, again, 6 years ago, absolutely not. I wouldn't borrow that money. I wouldn't borrow that for the hills. Yeah, I wouldn't borrow that money at that interest rate for that piece of land. You're crazy. To now, where I'm like, oh, okay, that I could see where that would work. So you actually kind of need a two-way relationship, because if you've got an old school accountant or controller or CPA that doesn't understand the business and doesn't understand what your mission is, they're just going to be the dreaded guy in accounting who won't let us grow our business.
The buzzkill accountant.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, in the beginning when we were starting our business, I was actually in control of our accounting, which is crazy, right? We've all worn different hats.
What have
right?
you not done, Greg?
We've all worn different hats. I actually ran the construction business at one time as well, which is an even
wow.
crazier thing. But I remember in the beginning, I looked at accounting and I was just dreading having to run this. And I think now, 14 years later, the conversations that we get to have, or with Reyes, who's at Pivot CPAs, and Rook and the guys, and we sit down, whenever we have one of those conversations, it's fun because of your intimate knowledge of our business and our plan and where we're going. I mean, literally, those are the best deals that we have, right? Because we can save hundreds of thousands of dollars because of your influence, because of that intimate knowledge that we have. So that's when accounting becomes fun. And you don't get that unless you have teammates that understand the overall vision, understand who you are, how you operate. You just don't get that if you have a normal CPA.
Agreed.
Right? So those are fun now.
How have you guys nurtured the relationship with Rich in order to get to that point?
I think, it's going to be a similar theme to what you've heard probably in a lot of our interviews, right?
Sure.
When we have really high-level, talented, really important relationships, we bring them in, right? So, whereas maybe a controller or a CPA firm might not actually be in your office, Rich is in our office, right?
Yeah.
He's in there every single day, right? we bring them into our business planning. Like we business plan in October every single year, and we spend a week literally hashing out every part of our business and what's this metric going to mean, what's this going to happen. And one of the first conversations is Adam Reel goes to Rich and Adam Reel goes to Brian over at Pivot CPAs, and he said, all right, this is where we are today, this is where we're going to be next year, this is where we're going to be in a few years. What do you guys see? You know, and it's that type of planning, preparation, kind of cohesive message, and man, I mean, it's amazing some of the things we've been able to do from a tax savings standpoint because of that commitment to it.
And Rich, you've talked about like evolving from, you know, Excel to programmer and all this stuff. Is that an inherent quality that you had, or is that something that's been kind of like fostered here? Like, have you always been a tinkerer that's willing to take on new challenges?
A little bit to that extent, but that's one of the great things about small businesses is, and also kind of being out on my own, is that, you know, like I said, I'm here Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays, and if they challenge me with something, to improve something, or can this be done, you know, I don't have that ridiculous corporate schedule that I used to have, to where I don't mind sitting up at 8 o'clock at night on Google Sheets seeing if I can write, you know, on a Tuesday night seeing if I can write code. And it's that, it's been eye-opening to me, again, because I've always been a tinkerer, but like, they'll be like, yeah, do whatever you got to do to figure it out, you know? If I tell them that I need a day, you know, to just lock myself in there and figure it out, oh, okay, yeah, that's fine. You know, and it's nice I don't have any employees anymore. That was a big thing. So luckily I don't have the managing people aspect of it. But
luckily.
Yeah. But working for a small company like this, and just being there's a lot more constraints, you know, with larger publicly traded companies.
Sounds like that core value of failing forward enables people to push their limits.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, it's a theme that we promote throughout. You know, it's a source of our success. So, you know, when Rich screws up, you know what?
Yeah.
We make fun of him for it and we move forward, right? Yeah. It's the same thing, you know, we have 80 people on the team now, and we want everybody to understand that, because you get so much farther ahead, you get so many more incremental gains when you have that approach. So.
Well, and it's the same thing.
Except just don't screw up again.
Yeah. Got it. But, you know, and they make their teammates, you know, really, you know, an integral part of the business, and seeing their business plan and their business model and what they're doing for people, is that I was sitting here, you know, first learning how to record it and what the accounting ramifications are, but then I'm like, well, how come I'm not investing with them? And that was where I was like, you know, oh my gosh, you know, they're paying 10% on private lending. And then I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, I'm not making 10% on my, you know, my IRA or whatever.
Yeah.
And so that's how, that's really how that
transition. Nobody who has more intimate knowledge of how it actually works than the guy who sees the books, who reviews them every single month, right? Which is really cool.
This is a perfect segue, right? Because you know, a little behind the scenes, when we were prepping for this, you're like, man, I don't really want to, nobody wants to hear about accounting, man, but like, here's my investment philosophy, right? Like, you're pretty pumped up to talk about your investment strategy, man. So I want to open up the door, and I first want to, you were telling me something about having some stock that you converted into, you know, talk me through that analysis that you made there.
So, you know, like I said, I was lucky enough, I listened when I was 21 years old. I started my 401k with Ernst & Young, and all the stories they tell you about compounding and all that, and it's true, it works. I mean, I've been very blessed. Met my wife, who is just as much of a dork as I am, and had been in her 401k, hates debt, you know, we're spend thrifty, whatever, you know, not into cars, not into clothes. So anyway, had a nice portfolio by the time I got here, and in my time at Regency, I was lucky enough to make senior management where they granted you equity. They're a publicly traded company, so I had a decent amount of Regency stock, which is a great investment. They're a REIT, you know, real estate investment trust, and pay a decent dividend and growth. So I had your standard pie chart, you know, with my financial advisor of this much in real estate, this much in blah, 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 blah. But so when I left, obviously kept my Regency stock, and that was a big part of my real estate sector of my retirement and investment portfolio. And then when I got here, they're obviously in real estate, completely different assets from grocery-anchored shopping centers. But had the opportunity, as I learned the business, I started with private lending, which I converted my old Anderson IRA. That was the other thing I learned, is you could actually have self-directed IRAs.
Cool thing.
So did kind of dip my toe in the water with private lending. They've never missed a payment. They've never missed an interest payment. Never defaulted on any of their loans. And then I started thinking, Greg actually had me working on developing and enhancing the turnkey client ROI tool. And that's kind of my baby every month now, as we publish returns just like a stock investment. Mm-hmm. And so I was sitting there looking at all these client returns every month, and I'm looking at my Regency stock, and I'm like,
I put you on that project for
a
reason.
Yeah, right. And then I was like, the benefit of it. So if I did convert that into, I'd still be in the real estate sector, but now I'd actually own real estate property. I have a physical asset, and I know the market here in Jacksonville. And while I don't expect it to go through a roof, I know it's not going to lose any value. Yeah. So I converted my Regency stock along with some of my wife's, and over the course of a year, bought three turnkey properties. So private lender, and 3 turnkey properties now, and so now I can get a sneak peek at my returns whenever I want, because I put them out. So that's how I made that transition. And like I said, I'm the probably the poster child, for passive. They stress the passive investment because the property management team is awesome. But I can confidently say I own 3 properties here in Jacksonville. I live in Jacksonville, and I have never seen them, nor do I ever care to see them or plan to see them. No offense to the tenants, or whatever, but I look at it strictly as an investment. I look at it just with my stock portfolio, my mutual funds, or whatever. That's how they sell it. That's how they run it. That's how they operate it. And
You mean you don't want to get to know your tenants?
I'm sure they're wonderful, and they pay on time. Knock on wood.
That's so. You look at it just like a share of stock or the REIT investment that you had before. It's the same thing. It's based on the fundamentals, right? Mm-hmm. No more, no less. Does it perform?
Yep.
And it has a certain degree of tangibility, right?
Correct.
Is there with, educate me here, right? So stock will go up or go down based on a company's performance. Real estate will go up, has gone down one time in the last 100 years, based on market performance. But there's also a specific cash flow that comes with it, right? This is closer to a dividend stock.
Correct.
But also with a physical asset that you can, I don't know, talk me through that differentiation, kind of how it feels as a customer.
Well, the good thing is the real value of the investment is the cash flow. Yeah. And so my 3 properties are leveraged. Mm-hmm. So I have a mortgage on it. You plot it out so the cash flow covers the mortgage and your real estate taxes and insurance, and then anything on top of that is gravy. But the physical asset and the appreciation. It's funny. I sit on the same floor as the salespeople, so I hear the pitch many times a day. But it's true. Is you don't sell. You don't invest with JWB Real Estate to flip your house in 5 years and make $100,000. Those aren't you invest in it to have a 10, 15, 20-year investment, so that at the end of your 15-year mortgage or 30-year mortgage, you've had all this positive cash flow, and now you own an asset debt-free. Whereas if you're looking to stock and say they have a bad year, they might not pay a dividend. Yeah. Or something happens politically that has absolutely nothing to do with the business, and the stock goes up or the stock goes down. Yeah. It's just it's a conservative piece to a well-balanced portfolio.
Traditionally people think there's either the stock investment or the bond investment. There's a new category though, and that's where we feel really. So in the stock investment, you've got unlimited upside.
Right.
which is great, but you also have a ton of variability. So it lacks consistency, right? So you got upside, but lacks consistency. In the bond market, you have consistency, but it generally lacks upside, right? As much upside. And so rental properties, consistency from the positive cash flow that he's talking about, and unlimited upside as well, more of an upside play. The problem for people historically has been, how do I get in there and have it be that passive experience where you can do what you do and not have to know your tenants, not have to worry about those things. So that's always been the mission for us, is to really try to focus on that category and make it a reality for people.
Right.
Sounds like you're all in a category all of yourself, right? Like, it's been super educational for me, right? Greg, I'll let you kind of take it away here, because I'm just absorbing here.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's been a great sort of study, kind of watching your evolution as an entrepreneur. As sort of adopting some of the things that we do here and seeing how that's made a positive impact on your investing style. I think about, most people who are probably watching this have no idea that you can actually invest your retirement account dollars in tangible real estate, in rental properties, in private lending. You've understood that now and invested in that. And then, the fact that you get to see everything that goes on inside JWB, I just want to say thanks for taking another step, trusting us with a part of your financial portfolio, and having you and Shan as, part of that is, we love that responsibility, but it also just means a lot that you get to, allow us to do that. So it's been an awesome, how many years have we been working together? 6 years?
It'll be 7. It was 6. It was
never
6
letting you leave, right?
6. Well, that's what I was going to close with. Unfortunately, it's been such a great synergistic relationship. We're gonna, I might have to start scaling back here. If
you notice anybody, even the folks that go on to greener pastures, find another opportunity with them, they're still here at lunch, man. You're never leaving. And with your cooking skills, by the way, you're never allowed to leave.
Well, and I'm not going to move on to greener pastures. I'm just going to move on and go sit at the beach and just let my properties kick off.
But you're still going to invite us over for the barbecue. So.
Sure.
Okay.
Of course.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
Of course.
Guys, this has been great. Thank you so much for this conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been fun.
All right, pleasure.
Thanks, buddy.